Good morning, everybody. This is John Spielkel from GAI Insights, joined by our cadre of AI analysts and experts. And we look forward to reviewing a series of articles, really important and interesting models out today, and some new announcements that we're going to review in our framework of EIO, essential, important, or optional reading for the busy AI exec. And I also want to thank Custom GPT, who's sponsoring the news this week. It's a fantastic product that allows you to very easily create your own large language model and keep it safe and custom for whichever activities you want to do. And it's a cloud-based system, very cheap to buy on a monthly basis, and easy to access and use. So thanks, Custom GPT. And with this, I'll turn it over to Tanya, who's going to manage our conversation today.
Thank you, John. Yes, we have some really interesting reading for the weekend ahead. We have some good news and interesting news from Google, from Meta. We have some new developments on video, text to video. And also some announcements from Apple. So we'll get started with article number 1, which is the Gemini announcement. And I'll give just a brief intro on the article. So Google, as you know, had rebranded, Bard to Gemini, and they're now announcing an upgraded version, 1.5. And they're saying there's going to be a lot of efficiency, but most importantly, they're increasing the context window to 1 million tokens, which will allow for larger queries. So a lot of interesting things here. And I would love for John to kick us off with this article.
Sure. I think this is essential reading for our busy AI exec for really 2 reasons. One, it's coming from the one of the the giants in the industry, and and is their entrant, their competition to OpenAI and so forth. And then the other is the capability of this. This 1 million token window is amazing. I mean, you can, that turns into, I think it's 10 hours of video. It's just a huge amount of info. One of the demos they have in the article is that they upload a Buster Keaton movie, and it takes about 30, 40 minutes to actually get ingested. And then they just ask, okay, somewhere in this video, there's a ticket that is taken out of somebody's pocket. Could you give us what is that ticket about, and what is the timestamp? And sure enough, it actually is able to not only find that in the movie, but also to read the ticket correctly and give that information. In addition, there's another prompt. You can prompt with a drawing, so there's a multimodal prompting. So they drew a picture of a water tower and a person getting water on them, and said, "Can you find this in the movie for us?" And sure enough, it did, just from the hand-drawn capability. So I think it's an amazing new breakthrough from a market leader. So essential.
Any comments from the team? I mean, I'm 100% there with you, John. I think it's definitely an important article for our audience to review, especially because Google is one of the top players. But any comments from the team?
I was on the edge. I think I considered it important news in that it isn't actually something that people can use yet, and that most companies aren't really at a point where they've even adopted one of these technologies. So by the time they actually get Gemini into their environment, this is going to be something that's expected. And in some ways, it's just trying to keep up with OpenAI and what's already available in GPT-4. So in some ways, it was optional because it's Google trying to keep up, which would be expected. And in some ways, absolutely, this is essential, John. I couldn't agree more. It's incredible. You could say how many buttons were on his shirt. Was it 1 or 2 on his cuffs? It's incredible. So in that reason, I sort of met in the middle and said it was important.
Right. I was in the middle. I put it as important, but I think we should highlight the bigger tokens window, even though it's not yet available. But when it is, it's a humongous achievement, because you can essentially feed the context, a lot of context, into the model right at the same time. So that will be a huge breakthrough. Much faster.
And they say 1 million, but in the lab they've already tested 10 million. And the example they give, which is significant, is that you can put most entire code bases into
Correct.
this thing at one time at that kind of context window, and it can just understand entirely what that entire code stack is doing, which is going to be a massive leap forward from a development perspective.
Right. And so from that perspective, I'm with John that we should just highlight it as essential, as a breakthrough, because it
I can be convinced.
allows now to build this context and feed it into the model at the same time. Amanda, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm important or essential, but one point I want to make though is the individuals that really called this out were my product and development teams that are really hardcore coding. So that's the only thing I'd preface this with is I think at this stage right now it's more the developers that are getting excited than like a top level exec in a company for it. So that's why I would teeter between important and essential just for that fact. If we're speaking developer, I mean, the guys went crazy about this yesterday. So so for them, it's essential.
Yeah, but for executives,
So
I
let's
agree.
land-
They need to know about it. That
Yeah,
is
I mean,
a next level of opportunity.
yeah, I mean, for me, one of the criteria if it's essential or not is if somebody else in the management team read this and you're at a cocktail party in a meeting and said, "Hey, Tanya, did you hear about, blah, blah, blah," would you be embarrassed if you hadn't read it? And I think
Yeah.
this, for sure, it's like Google's got a token window that's 8 times as big as OpenAI, and it could be 80 times as big. And I played around with the thing, and just as you said, Adam, you can tell me the buttons on a shirt, and my AI leader doesn't know that's coming from Google. That's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I'm
All right,
convinced.
so we're gonna land on essential. We'll put a little caveat there. I like, Amanda, what you said of hey, it's available just for developers, not for the business user yet, because that has been something that we've used when we rank something as lower than essential. But we'll go with essential on this one, and let's move on to the next one, which is the governor of Massachusetts made an announcement, signed an executive order to establish the Artificial Intelligence Strategic Task Force. And their aim is to make Massachusetts the hotbed of AI development and startups and many things like that. And funding goes along with that. So let's see. I think I had Luda, since you live in Massachusetts. What did you think of this announcement?
For Massachusetts, this is very important. It's Massachusetts, unfortunately, and it pains me to say that, Massachusetts is one of the top ones, if not the top one, in getting training the AI talent. And then a lot of that talent somehow leaves and goes to other places. And that's really a bummer. So it is the fact that the governor is putting it together as an effort is very important for Massachusetts. For everybody else, like for our busy executives, I think it's optional, but it would get other people opinions on that. John, what do you think? Even though you're not,
I'll say optional, and it's interesting because the language in this is very much around AI application, which I thought was an interesting distinction there. So they're not trying to compete on the foundation models. But yeah, I would say great. I'm a born and bred, Massachusetts person, and so Brockton, Minnesota. I'm out in Chicago because my kids are out here. But great news for the Bay State, but optional.
Yeah, so I'm personally going to try to lend my expertise, whatever it is worth, to help this effort along faster, because I think Massachusetts absolutely needs to do it.
All right. So I think when I look at the sheet too, several of us had put it as optional for the rest of the world, but important for those who are in the Massachusetts, New England area. Good. Let's move on to article number 3, please. And thank you, Adam, for driving today. The next article is an announcement from Meta on something they're calling VJEPA, Video Joint Embedding Predictive Architecture Model. It aims for a more human-like understanding of the physical world. The intent is to create AI that can learn and reason in a generalized manner, just like we learn as babies by observing the world. I think this is fascinating. And let's see, I think I had this assigned to Amanda.
So this one, and those who didn't hear the pre-discussion, Luda had mentioned this is referring to a non-generative model. But one thing I would say is it could teeter on, because it is sort of announcement-y, between optional, but I would lean towards important on this one, because there's just different little tidbits. So if you do nothing but literally just watch the video in there, it talks about how it learns by predicting missing or masked parts of a video. Unlike generative, that tries to fill in every single missing pixel, things like that, leads to more efficient training. So there's different, parts of this article that I think are interesting. But again, this starts to get, for me, a little technical. So that's where I get, on the fence of, is that optional for our typical executive reading this? But again, I think it's important to note how this is being trained just on a high level, again, on the video and about the, but again, the non-generative aspect. So again, I could be swung either way on this one. So interested in other thoughts.
So I'm with you. I was on the fence. I ended up on optional, partly because it is research, and partly because it's really just an extension of something they had already done, which is IEPA, which is basically the same thing over images. And now they're applying it to video. So in some ways, it's kind of an incremental improvement. It's not really a breakthrough or something super new. So that's what had me sort of push it down into optional news. That and the fact that it's research at this point and forward looking. But I agree, Amanda, it was definitely on the edge for me.
Yeah, same here. I ended up putting it as optional because it's important research, but I don't know. It got quite a bit technical, and it's not generative AI.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I put it as. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, the only thing I would add though is that Meta is standing strong on their open source position, and this is Creative Commons from day one.
Yeah.
So that is at least nice to see. I think especially with Zuckerberg just this week. I don't know if you all saw the video he made talking about the Apple Vision Pro, but he was very vocal about being the open source alternative to Apple. So this seems to be another sort of part of that brand position as well.
Yeah, and I applaud Meta for doing this, because at the end of the day, it wouldn't be just generative AI. It will be a combination of different models, and this is a critical piece of it. And so the fact that they are working on it, I think, is it's wonderful. Yeah, great.
John,
Yeah.
you had a comment?
Okay. I rate it's important because I think look, we have to assume some technical capability for our AI leader, and this is a massive new alternative strategy that's incredibly important for performance and efficiency, which is a big deal. So anyway, that's where I came down important as opposed to optional.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I guess I have the paddle. I don't have it right in front of me, but I think I'm going to have to go with since we have 3 out of the 4 with a no. I had an eye on it as well, John, but we're outvoted here.
But Tanya, remember, this is not a democracy. It's a dictatorship with input.
Love it. All right, so let's go on to article number 4, which is the OpenAI announcement on some improvements, major improvements, I should say, or a new announcement of a new product, I should say, that creates videos from our text prompts. And we were just watching a few of them right before we got on this live stream, and it's pretty impressive. So Adam, why don't you kick us off on this project, on this article, please?
Yeah, first of all, I'd say it would be hard not to say this is essential. It is pretty groundbreaking, and I'll get a little bit into why. The fact that they are now just sharing it with a small group of safety testers, and the rest of us will have to wait and learn more. So it is research, as groundbreaking as it may be, was probably the only reason I could think of to say it's important, not essential. But under John's lens of, hey, if someone comes tomorrow and asks you, have you heard about Sora? You want to be sure you have heard about this. So I think overall, I'm going to give it an essential rating. With that though, let me explain a little more about what's going on. This is the research paper that underpins that article from Technology Review, and as you can see in the title, video generation models as world simulators. So here it isn't just creating, it's using a diffusion model underneath it for the video generation, which is what all of these have been using, including DALL-E. But it seems like it's actually now developing full simulated objects and then using physics to understand how they interact with each other. Here's an example of a video that I saw posted today, and this is in that research article. I put it in our spreadsheet. I'd encourage we share that link as well directly, because it has all of the videos in it. It's really great. But as they're describing here, it's actually creating two boats, determining what they look like, including the flags on them. And then when it moves them around in the coffee cup, it makes sure that they don't hit each other. So it's doing far more in terms of the depth of its understanding of physics than just rendering videos. And it's really a significant achievement. This video here, you can see the prompt is long and detailed, but it can do up to a minute of video from a single prompt. So all of this video that you're seeing was rendered from one text input, which really, as I said, is extraordinary. The other couple things I'll just highlight, I'll scroll down here quickly. It can as well do image to video, as you can see there, or here. Look at the scene with the wave in it, and then it actually rendered this video from that image. As well, it can do, and I think I'll find it down here a little further. It can do video to video as well, and I'll see if I can find that for a second. But I'd love to hear what other people have to say about this, and I'll leave it on the video to video when I find it here. Yeah, there we go.
Adam, somebody is asking here, our viewers, when do we know when the real release is scheduled?
I haven't seen any information about other than that they're doing that now. And when you think about the concerns with deep fakes and the ability of anyone who can pay for a GPT subscription to make almost anything, I think they are going to be very careful about how they bring this to market. Yeah. I certainly am hopeful that they will be.
I really appreciate that take, of them being very cautious with it, because yeah, we just heard, we just reviewed an article, right, last week, I think it was, where someone impersonated a high executive and they took billions of dollars or millions of dollars. We have elections coming up. So I really appreciate them, taking that into consideration. And I just wonder, how are they going to, how will it be rolled out, right? How are they going to control it?
Yeah,
when they do.
So I was thinking, given how we rate these things, I agree with you, Adam, that this can be a breakthrough when it is released, provided it is secure and the like. At the moment, since it's not ready, I would like to put it as important so that our audience knows that it's coming, rather than essential.
I just have one quick comment on that, to the point Adam made. It's interesting because they reference that with those C2PA or whatever those tags are to say where the content's coming from. So at least to your point, Adam, it is on their minds. Thank goodness they did mention that, at least in that first article we were looking at. So hopefully they followed through with that. But I mean, again, something like this, I'm totally on the fence on. So I'll go with what the group thinks for this one.
Yeah, for me, I'd start out as optional, but I'm moved all the way to essential for the reasons that you were saying. I think that you need to know about this, and it's interesting. There's a wonderful book, The Coming Wave. That was one of the authors is one of the co-founders of DeepMind, and he makes the point in the book that no technology has ever been contained, with the possible exception of the Atomic Energy Commission and the atom, and it has some constraints, and even that. We've got over a dozen countries that have nukes and so forth, and it took massive effort. I don't see this getting controlled, and I don't see them. Paul Beyer was saying in the commentary that this will be released after the election. I doubt it. I think they're going to put it out there sooner, and I think we have to assume this is going to be available.
Yeah, I mean, I would go with essential on it, and I'm just thinking more in terms of the clients that we've been talking about that need a way to train their people as quickly as possible on AI. And one of the things that kind of stops us from training is you have to develop these fancy videos, these fancy, way of training people and engaging. And now really we, once this is available, that type of training can be done fairly quickly. So I think it's essential for our. be aware
I,
of.
I will tip the scale for all of you now, but I held it back just in case there was any debate about whether or not this was essential. And let's see if I can find it here. I actually didn't have this already up, but let's see if it'll, I'll bring up one more article here. And this is something from last October. And this was where they were training robots using video simulations.
Mhm.
Right. So when you start to think about the capability, right, when you take this new capability that OpenAI has brought to market and you start applying it to robotics and to the training of robotics, you can literally, a robot almost real time will be able to generate its own training information and learn how to do a task because Sora will understand already how to make a video that shows how to do it.
Yeah.
And so the far-reaching significance of this in industry is actually, as I describe it, and it's from someone else. I've stolen the phrase, but it's highlighting the exponentials of exponentials within AI and the way these things aren't kept to one industry, and the far-reaching impacts that we can't even consider yet in terms of the ways that we can now generate video, and even the other news tonight about the ways that we're starting to use video.
Yeah.
When you start stitching those together, this is massive.
Yeah, I mean, this whole notion of when you can put the physics into it, what's kind of cool is that you then, as you say, you don't have to build the physics into everything else, right? Because it then creates video. That video is true to the physics. Then the other learning capabilities for the robots start to do that. If we go back to the thing we were just talking about, the VJEPA, okay, so now all of a sudden I'm training models, that have physics embedded in it because of the semantics of, and it's all synthetic. So I can create these huge training data sets. I mean, it's just, I mean, what I think about it is that, you can isomorphically go from, atoms to bits, from bits to atoms, and then, you're developing the semantics and all that stuff. And
apologies, I do want to cover one more thing quickly here, which is what they call the recaptioning technique, right? So they use the DALL-E 3 to caption their videos so that they could train Sora.
Yeah.
So then you think about that kind of feedback loop and you take it to that next level,
Right.
with Sora being the one that's doing the recaptioning, and then the news about Gemini being able to look at the entire movie at once. And you think about recaptioning and the way we're going to be able to capture metadata from video. Like this goes very fast, very far. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We're going to go essential, and we have 9 minutes to go, and we have 2 more articles. So a lot of conversation on this. We definitely want our executives to read about Sora. So thank you so much, Adam, for sharing all of that. Let's go on to article number 5 and LangChain. So this is a product that we've talked about, a company we've talked about in the past. They have an amazing history. A lot of people using it. I think the article says 50,000 LLM applications are using LangChain, and now they also have Langsmith with another 70,000 users. So a lot of good stuff. But what do we think about the article overall, Amanda? How would you rate it?
So I guess, this is difficult for me because for me, it's just optional and I don't have to think twice, but it is important in the world of LLMs, generative AI, things like that. So, I mean, I guess I could be convinced. I'd kind of like to hear what the group has to say on this. Important if you've, no offense, been under a rock and have not heard of LangChain at all in this world. So that's why I'm curious to hear what Adam would have to say on this as well, because I have a feeling he might say something similar, but curious others' thoughts on this one.
Adam, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, honestly, I was surprised to see that LangChain was doing a Series A. I had assumed they were far further along than that, given where they sit in market. So that was a bit of a surprise, and they are a significant player. But at the end of the day, it's funding of a Series A for one of the companies out there. I consider it optional.
Yeah, it's certainly optional, and it comes from Sequoia, who is an investor in them. So it's a marketing piece for sure to promote.
As I highlighted at the bottom here, right?
Yeah.
We're thrilled to partner with LangChain and lead their Series A. It's a press release.
Yeah.
I thought it was History 101 on LangChain. So we'll go with optional.
And that's probably a reason why it could be important. is for people to pay attention to LangChain. They're now funded. They were already very successful. They're going to be a big player.
Yeah.
But
Nah,
We'll
optional.
go with optional, yes. All right, good. Thank you so much. Let's go to article number 6. It's another one, an investment into Magic, which is a company that is saying, hey, we're not just gonna build a co-worker. I mean, we're not just gonna build a co-pilot. We're gonna build a co-worker. Who do I have assigned for this? Did I have? I'm so sorry. Let me look at my sheet.
John.
John, thank you. What are your thoughts on Magic?
Yeah, I did it as optional, and maybe I missed something, but I didn't see a whole lot more than this announcement, and then, yes, I mean, the idea of building a coworker and, not just having a co-pilot. Yeah, I mean, I think that's, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I've been a consultant for a long time as well as an academic, and, I make up words all the time. I'm, amazed by the amount of BS, labels for obvious things in this domain. It's probably because, the technology is helping people come up with clever things. But, I think this is a distinction without a difference myself. So I'd say definitely optional.
Optional. All right. Thank you so much. I think we all agree on that one.
Well, to highlight, guys, what they're doing, they're focusing on code generation, and the way they're positioning it is really a co-worker. So somebody who will generate code and work side by side to advance the code development. So I think it will be, if they are successful, this will be a good company to invest in for sure. But for our audience at the moment, since they're just starting, it's optional.
Yeah, I think the whole analogy of co-worker is misthought. I think what we're talking about is a network of capabilities that can come together dynamically and disperse. I mean, I think the LangChain thing is way more interesting because I think that this is hive intelligence. This is like a beehive, but all the bees aren't the same size, and they're not just bees. They're bees and they're ants and they're elephants and they're, what I mean. But there's a thread of coordination here, and I think the whole making a comparison to humans is not the right way to think about the problem myself. Anyway.
I have one quick comment on this too. I find it interesting companies now are dropping AGI, and I feel like in the past companies were scared to mention that, like, is something they're working on because people are so skeptical. Like, we're never getting, you either think we're getting there, we're not. So I kind of like that. I'm like, interesting. They have the nerve to kind of put that, and more companies are doing this. So I think it's something on the horizon, but that's kind of what I pulled out of this thing.
Okay, sounds like optional.
We're going to go with optional. All right. And number 7 is an article about Apple. And we've known Apple has been kind of conservative on their AI approach. And so this article makes a few announcements on how they are starting to incorporate AI in some of their products. And I think I had this for Luda.
Yeah. Too bad Paul is not here. It's a nothing burger, I think. I mean, it's an important capabilities to be integrated in Apple's products that are out there already. They've been hinting on that, but it is really optional until release. And it's incremental, it sounds like. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you, Luda. Any other comments from the team? I had it as optional as well.
Yeah, it in the article, it mentions both GitHub Copilot as well as Amazon's similar tool. I don't remember. Oh, the Code Whisperer. And in some ways, it's just them trying to keep up, and it's probably good that they do. But I consider it optional as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most interesting thing about this article is it time to short Apple stock?
All right. Well, this completes our.
And apologies, I don't have the cool summary slide to put up like Onkaj normally would.
Not a problem. I think if I got this right, I think we're ending with two essentials and the rest are optional. So not too much to read over the weekend.
So Gemini 1.5 and the Sora, the OpenAI
Yes.
were the
Were the essential.
the big news this week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us early in the morning for those in the States and late at night for those in Asia. So thank you so much. And back to you, John. Oh, and have a great weekend.
Yes, thanks everybody. And thanks to the team for this review. I also want to let folks know that we're going to have a guest reviewer on Monday as well. We're going to have Nick Pope join us. And again, want to thank our sponsor, Custom GPT, for their support. And it's a great product. Give it a try. Look forward to talking to you next week.
Happy Friday.